Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Paul from For Real, and we are here today with Bob Clark from Clark Reptiles, who really needs no introduction. We all know who Bob is, and if you don't, Google it. You will learn a lot. Thanks for coming on, Bob, and welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, Paul.
Yep. So if you want, just kind of give everybody a quick breakdown, and then we'll get into a few questions about the industry itself.
Okay.
Just kind of your background. Just, I mean, like I
Okay,
said,
my background. Okay. Yeah, I can tell you a little about myself. My favorite thing to talk about. So, I'm, I've been breeding reptiles. I've been breeding pythons since '74. Every year since then, and since '85, I make my living breeding pythons, and I have for the last since '85. I like pythons the best. I'm interested in everything though. So it could be a dart frog, it could be a gecko, but I try to focus on pythons.
That's awesome. So probably one of the most exciting things for me is we love the pied gene. So my daughter, that's her favorite. She has a really nice piebald ball python named Blue. And when the retics came out, I was like, wow, that's fantastic. But they really don't, like, they have that pied look, but they don't have that distinctual, like, ball python pied look. And then when we saw the pictures of the burms, my oldest son, who's a burm guy, he lost it. He come flying to me because we worked together. He's like, Dad, you got to see this picture. Look at this. Is this real? And it was so cool to see that pattern on a larger scale.
Mm-hmm.
So where did is that something that just popped up, or is that something that you've been working on for many years?
I've been working with, well, it popped up originally,
yeah,
but overseas, but no, I've been working with it for a long time.
Yeah, they're amazing animals, even better in person. But again, alas, we're here in Florida, so we've unfortunately lost the right at this juncture to keep 16 different species, and obviously Burmese and retics are on that list, which really sucks for us, especially the ones that were doing it the right way, going through FWC inspections, paying our fees, keeping everything the right way, the way that FWC said they wanted it. So as far as the industry goes and your background and where you're at, what do you see happening across the country? And I don't know if you know this, so I'll preface it by saying Marco Rubio, Center for Florida.
Yeah, I'm aware, and I just think we live in a time where of increasing regulation, and I hate to see that, and it's really hard to imagine. I mean, think about what your grandfather would have said if somebody would say, hey, in the future your grandson, the state or the federal government will tell him what kind of snake he can keep. I mean, how absurd is that?
Yeah,
that is something that involves government at all. But like I say, we live in a time where these kinds and all kinds of regulations are increasing, and it's a shame, and it's something that we've got to fight at every opportunity.
What do you think? I just did an interview with Brittany Kay the other day. She's a reptile educator that used to live up in New York and is down here now. We had kind of touched on the herpetological societies have kind of died off because of the, just social. I assume it's just social media and it's instant gratification. You want to see something. Why do I got to go spend a day during the month to go and talk to somebody about it? I can get right online and see it like that. What do you think that's a bad thing or a good thing?
Oh, I mean, I hate to see a society, a reptile society dry up, but I do think with today's access to by the internet for people to communicate so easily with each other, I think really it's got to be better. That's much better. I think you got a question, you can ask it. Somebody's got an answer. It's not always the right one, but somebody give you an answer. And I think in the past we looked forward to those meetings. We looked forward to getting that newsletter in the mail. We spent a lot of time doing that sort of thing, but now we spend much more time. We have much better connections. We can be in contact with people that share our interests all over the world, not just in our town. So maybe I miss the face-to-face a little bit, but I think we're in a lot better position right now.
And that's it. You touched on the, you can get that answer, and something that I've said, and I've talked about it a couple times. I talked to Tim Morris about it in my second interview, and you see a shift in, you have the new keeper, the intermediate keeper, and the, I'll call them the OG keepers like yourselves. And it almost seems like some of the intermediate keepers are so quick to jump on a new keeper's back about, you're doing something wrong, you're doing this wrong. And it also seems like those intermediate keepers are quick to say, well, these guys that have been around for a long time I do it this way, and this is the right way to do it. And I think that a lot of times it divides groups.
Mm. And everybody's an expert online, but
exactly. Well,
I don't know if that's any different than it ever was. There's been good information and bad information out there all the time, but it's just all so much more available to us now. Maybe it just seems, maybe it seems worse, but I do wish that the online forums and Facebook groups could be they could be a little more welcoming to the new keepers, and I see it. Somebody sends a picture of their snake, and then somebody's got to make a comment about your cage isn't clean enough, and why are you keeping it on that substrate, and why are you doing this and why are you doing that? I think really to that poor kid, that's got to hurt.
Yeah, in most cases it is a kid. It is some young kid that's parents just took him out and got a snake, and he's super excited to get on and post that picture in this group that he's probably been following for years, and he finally got that. His parents finally did it. They finally got him something, and then somebody
It is really a shame. I'd like to see those groups be more helpful and more welcoming, and not take every opportunity to slam the guy.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we live in an age now of, YouTube, and, I've been a pretty big proponent of not putting things on YouTube because I think that it's a good and a bad. But again, and this is a prime example. I got a 14-foot sun tiger, het purple retic from Dr. Larry, and I did an unboxing video. It was 1 minute, maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds. And 2 days after I posted the video, I get a phone call from my FWC officer saying, "Hey, do you have an import permit for that sun tiger?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Do you have your Florida import permit for the snake that you just posted on YouTube?" And I was like, "You watched that?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I do, but I didn't know you watched that stuff." And he's like, "Well, of course, we're always looking around." And I thought, man, that's pretty interesting that I hear people here in Florida that are YouTube influencers say Fish and Wildlife doesn't look at YouTube, and what we do on YouTube doesn't matter. And that
enforcement people enforce. So
that's their job.
I think we shouldn't be surprised at that. We should make every effort to comply with all the laws. Now, like I said, I don't agree with all the laws, and I
of course,
the people that are always telling us to follow the science seem to be the worst offenders about not following any science. So I don't, like I said, I'm not very happy with those kinds of restrictions. Some of them are just silly, but it's something that we have to live with, and the time to deal with it is before they get passed, rather than after.
Yeah, and that's back to the herpetological societies. It's something that I've talked about before. Is USARK is amazing, and man, God bless them for the amount of hours that they put in and the work that they do, but it's a reactionary tool. And unfortunately, by the time they're getting to this, these people have already gone to these so-called experts and gotten so much misinformation that sometimes it's hard for us to draw it back. So we see that USR comes in and fights the battle and wins and loses or wins and, just keeps going. But if we had, I feel like with those herpetological societies in different areas, if you have that, sometimes you might get a leg up and maybe more notification going out than
But
we do now.
We need to organize on every level, and and USARC is good at telling us what's happening at the local, our own local levels as well. So it's important to be a member of USARC and to contribute to USARC. So they are by far our biggest and most powerful voice. So
So now, are you doing shows anymore, Bob, or are you just?
Well, I didn't do many in the last year.
Yeah, well, of course.
I do a lot of overseas shows for the big ham show in Germany 4 times a year. Two big shows in Japan. All those. Well, I didn't go to the Japanese shows this year. I just sent the animals, and then the ham show hasn't happened since
COVID.
For a year, and it's not expected to happen again until September or December of this year. So I miss that. It's I miss those, and then I do the NARBC shows in Texas.
Okay.
And sometimes I do some local shows as well, but I'm mostly an exporter these days.
So here's a question. How does because I've never even heard of the Japan show. How does that show differ from here in the States?
It's as big as any we have.
Okay.
The Japan Reptiles show is there's a summer and a winter show. I mean, it's in Japan, it's very similar to here. They've got a show somewhere every week.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I send animals to a lot of those shows, and generally, at least in the past, I've gone to the Japan Reptile show, the big one. So
that's cool.
But
that's very interesting.
How are they different? Well, they're really very similar. Yeah, they're very similar. That's a different assortment of animals. They have different rules over there, and every show has its own flavor for sure. The European shows and the Asian shows.
Okay. Oh, that's very cool. That's definitely interesting to get that kind of take on a foreign show. I know I've seen some videos on YouTube from Dan Malari where they talk about like they actually do like animal shows, like best animal or best snake, best lizard. I think that's I think that's an interesting thing for a show.
Yeah, I did a show in Jakarta one time, and thing I took, but they did have competitions for reptiles, a lot like maybe a dog show. Okay. So it was very interesting aspect, and I enjoyed it, and it made people really fine tune their keeping and you want your animal to look the very best it can look, and so it takes some extra effort. And anyway, it was interesting. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I was a judge.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, who better to have a judge? I mean, I'm sure you've seen thousands and thousands of these animals. So
very, very interesting.
Yeah. So what big projects are you working on right now? Are you just pythons, or do you have some other offshoot small stuff that you're just tinkering with?
I work with a few boas, and like I said, I'm interested in everything. I'm starting to pick up a few king snakes and rat snakes, and I like everything. There's a balance between getting too diluted into all the possibilities, and then staying focused on really what I enjoy the most and do the best.
Yeah.
And I'm always swinging back and forth in there somewhere. I like tortoises. I like I say, I have broad interests.
Yeah, it's so hard to pick. I did my venomous internship here to get my hours in to keep venomous. And initially it was started off with, I really love eyelash vipers. I've always had a huge fascination with them, the different colors and just the amazing look. So that was all I was interested in. And now it's when somebody says, well, okay, you've got all your hours in, you get your permit, what are you going to get? And it's like, man, I don't know, because now I've worked with, mambas and, some of the Bothrop species and some of the cloud forest stuff. And, you work with so many different animals. It's like, okay, which one? I can't put my finger on where I would want to be at, it's really, really difficult,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff to be interested in, and really, as far as keepers go, when you think about all the animals that we keep, it's not really that many of when you think about all the possibilities that there are. We like king snakes and rat snakes and boas and pythons and leopard geckos and bearded dragons, and that's about all of it.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
you think about the possibilities and opportunities that are still out there. There's a lot.
Yeah. I think it's and I don't know about you, but we travel and we'll go to like the local pet stores, and it's always fun to see somebody come in with a husband and wife and maybe their kids, and they'll walk around and look, and you'll hear them say, oh my God, look at that, that's crazy. And they're walking out with a bearded dragon or a leopard gecko, or
Yeah, and I'll tell you, one thing that's changed, you talk about things that have changed, one thing that's really changed is the availability of reptiles now at PetSmart and Petco. So every town now can have an opportunity. It always freaks me out a little bit to go into a Petco and see a pied ball python. I thought, how who would have thought?
Yep. And I've seen that too. I remember the first time I went in and I looked in a cage and I saw the usual normal, and then I looked in the back and I'm like, is that a banana? And sure enough, I'm like, where did that come from?
Right. And I think for people like us, for breeders, for people that make their living selling animals like that, the street can come into a store and buy it, who had no idea that a banana ball python even existed.
Yep.
And he sees it in a cage and thinks, I can afford that, and it's the coolest thing I ever saw.
Yep.
That brings in, I mean, that's probably the most important recruiter to our hobby that we've had. I mean, I thought in the old days, well, Reptiles magazine, I thought that's reaching a lot of people I never would have reached. Mm-hmm. Somebody picks up that magazine in the pet shop and says, well, I didn't know these things. You could have a snake, it could look like this. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And then since that time, the internet, and then especially, like I say, the big chain pet shops, that is bringing a lot of people to us. They get that pastel ball python and they want something else. And they think, this is good, I like it, I'm successful with it, I can get all the equipment that I need, I can get all the information that I need online, and it really has been good, like I say, for recruitment into our hobby.
I worked with a guy, I was a maintenance guy at the dairy that I worked in, and he had come in one night and I was talking to somebody else and I'd mentioned snakes, and he said, oh, we bought my kids a ball python, he's like, let me tell you about ball pythons. And he starts telling me, their requirements and, they like hides and this and that. And I'm like, oh, it's really cool. So I pulled up a picture and I said, you ever see a ball python like this? And he's like, what is that? And I'm like, that's a ball python, but it's a piebald ball python. He's like, where is that? And I was like, that's at my house. And he's like, no, it isn't. That doesn't exist. That's Photoshop. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, he comes into work and he's like, man, I didn't even know you could buy snakes over the internet. He's like, I think I'm in trouble. I'm like, what do you mean you're in trouble? He's like, I don't know. We can't get off of this website, this Morph Market website. And now, my daughter's got like this shopping cart, she's got all these different morphs. And he's like, did you know? And I'm like, it's living art, man. It's what you want. And I think now they have 4 ball pythons. You know? So you're right.
And when you think about it now, you mentioned Morph Market. Now everybody that has a snake and that is successful in breeding it has equal access to the market that a big breeder has. You can breed it, put it online and sell it on Morph Market, and it's a real, everybody's on even footing. And it used to be, I thought, well, I've got better access to the market because people know who I am.
Yeah.
Well, now everybody knows who everybody is, and I've lost that advantage. I think everybody can buy anything.
So this is the way I look at it. I look at these animals as art. Everything is art. If you look at my backdrop, every one of these animals has something different that the other one might not have. So with that said, when you look at Morph Market, you may have a banana. There might be 5 other bananas that somebody's looking at, but they're looking for a specific pattern or just that little nuance of difference. I think it gives everybody, like you said, everybody's on the same playing field now. Now it's about how, being selective and instead of just volume, it's about producing those selective animals.
Yeah. Well, anyway, things are changing mostly for the good, I think.
Yeah.
So as far as the business, the industry, for doing what I do, it's never been better. Now, when we talk about regulations, it's scary going forward. I don't, like I say, the trend is toward more and more regulations, and not just in keeping snakes, it's in everything. Everybody's got to tell you what to do, and I don't like it.
Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, if you look at, and this is how I compare the reptile industry to firearms. And I say, we have USARC, they have the NRA. When there's an issue, the NRA jumps in, but all these people circle the wagons and they put their disagreements aside to fight for that common ground. But I think what we lose is that some people's egos are just so big that they
I hope there's enough of us.
Yeah.
Because we have a big voice with USARC, but what scares me is, okay, take Marco Rubio. Mm-hmm. He's introduced that thing, and the last time we saw it came from the other Florida senator, Bill Nelson. Yep. And I'm sure there's some the forces of evil there in Florida have got a hold of Rubio and said, look, we're worried about injurious wildlife. We've got this virus now, and animals can transmit pathogens, and what it came down to is, I'm sure he said, well, who needs a python? Because he doesn't know about us. He has no idea about us. Yeah. Nobody needs to keep a python. Maybe nobody's keeping it anyway. I'll make you people happy. We'll do this and that. And I just think, Rubio's a good Republican. He's a small government for smaller, less intrusive government.
Yeah, which is was kind of shocking.
Yes, but I guarantee he's got a hold of those other people. The other side has got a hold of him and explained it in a way that if you don't know about us and you don't know about what we do, and that there are people that make their livings this way and how it would hurt those people, it sounds perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, for sure.
Our job going forward now is to explain that to those people. Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing battle, and it didn't start with didn't even start with Bill Nelson. It started long before.
Oh yeah,
there are a lot of people that don't know that they don't want us to do what we do. They don't care about us, and they're representing their own interests. Yeah. And our job is to counter that with our own arguments to protect our interests.
So the CSP permitting system down here was fantastic, and a lot of people had questioned me when I put my permit in. You don't mind them coming to your house, and they're gonna. No, I don't. First of all, I have nothing to hide. I do nothing illegal. So they're gonna tell me that I have to have X size cage. It's got to be locked. It's got whatever. If you want to keep the animals, then you have to follow the rules, whether we, like you said, whether we agree with them or not. So fast forward to 2020 in December 2019, we had heard kind of rumor that this was going to happen. And then when Senate went into session in early January, Senator Mayfield from Broward County, not Broward County, but Melbourne, had put in this bill to add or to take and make all CSP prohibited. So, writing letters, sending emails, doing all this stuff, we tried to stop that. But here's the thing. Everything was based on fallacy and all the way down to the point that 2 weeks ago during the meeting, they said that Burmese pythons could live all the way up into Maryland and reproduce in the wild and survive there.
Yeah. Well, it's just, you go back and read that stuff from 2012 that,
yeah.
And you think, well, how stupid is this?
Yeah.
If Burmese pythons could move up to New Jersey and Kansas, and then why haven't they spread out of Thailand and taken over the rest of the whole world?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had a million years to do it. Why didn't they?
Yeah. And that's
because that they took a simplistic view of the things that are necessary for an animal to survive in its environment. Yeah. And they made that thing strictly temperature, which was idiotic anyway.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
It's idiotic, but the legislators fell for it, and that's what we got.
Well, here's the scary thing.
Well, actually, the legislators didn't fall for it. The Fish and Wildlife decided we're going to make a ruling. Yeah, and so I don't like that stuff. And you were talking about, okay, that Florida says you got to have a cage like this and you got to do things like that. And I think, who are you? Who do you think you are to come in here and tell me how I'm going to keep my snake? I want a snake to have its the proper conditions and to be kept well. But I also think, hey, that's my job to do. It's not yours. Get out of my life. Leave me alone. I will keep the snake any way I want to. And if I want to pop it in heaven for dinner, I'll do that. It's not your business. Yeah. So you give a little bit here, you give a little bit there, and pretty soon you can't do anything. So like I say, I want the animals to be cared for well, but I also think what we're really talking about here is personal responsibility, and we can't legislate that. I'm a adult man, and I can make my own decisions. I don't need you to make them for me.
Well, see, so here's what I don't think they understand, and I don't think they're listening to. And there's two parts to this. So the first part is, during this phone call, Rodney Barreto, the chairman of FWC, was heard telling one of the people on the phone, and I don't know who it was heard telling them, your income doesn't trump our environment. However, Rodney Barreto is a land developer who owns a portion of a cove in South Florida that he wants to dredge, that is a manatee, not sanctuary, but an area that manatees live in. Yeah. So here's our chairman of FWC who wants to destroy habitat to build houses in a marina. So I'll tell you what to do, but don't get in my business. Well, he'd probably understand my argument pretty well then. So, but with that said, back to what you were just saying about keeping the animals, if I go out and buy a $20,000 snake, why would I not A, want to keep it secure so it didn't get out, B, want to keep it as healthy as possible? That's a big investment. And I don't believe that Fish and Wildlife understand the magnitude of what this is, whether
well, I don't know if they do or not, but they've got their, I think the legislators don't understand.
Yeah.
But I think Fish and Wildlife,
they should understand.
They probably know what they understand, but they think they know better than we do, and that Burmese python thing, what a mess that was. How did that ever happen?
Yeah. Well, and the big thing is now is the green iguanas and the tegus in South Florida, and but here's the problem: they've been here since the 40s, the 30s and 40s. This isn't new. So putting them on this prohibited list and saying, hey, you just can't keep them, you can't. We even said it, and I talked to my investigator and told him, why can't they just say, hey, you can we'll put all this stuff on the CSP permit, which we don't want, but we're willing to work with everybody. You just can't sell the animals in the state of Florida.
Well, the horse is out of the barn on that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what we do with the pet iguana at this point makes no difference.
Yep.
It makes no difference at all. You guys just need a good hard freeze down there and knock them back a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think it was 1.5 or 2 years ago, it was Rodney Barreto had said, hey, if you see iguanas, get rid of them, just shoot on sight, do whatever. And, 2 or 3 days went by of internet videos with people running them over with shopping carts, and somebody's tried to shoot one out of their tree and shot the pool guy next door. And, it's like, you can't really go out and say, do whatever it takes. There's a way to eradicate an invasive species. And I love Burmese pythons. I absolutely, it breaks my heart to see that they have to be put down.
Well, I'll tell you, I like them too. They've been, they changed my whole life.
Yeah.
But I would say the best thing that could happen is a good hard freeze and kill them all because they're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And those wild snakes don't have anything to do with captive animals. It's something different. They're a good thing in a bad place. Yeah. So they shouldn't be there. And if there were a way to eradicate the wild ones, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah. 100%.
It doesn't have anything to do with a snake in the cage of a kid's bedroom.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
And that's why I said we've had 10 years. I think it's roughly 10 years and no CSP violations handed out here. So why change something that's actually working? All they did, and somebody asked during the call, and I watched the replay, you could see all these senators or all these fish and wildlife people kind of look at each other like, oh crap, we didn't think about that. What are you going to do about the people that have these animals now that are scared that they're going to get in trouble? They're just going to release them into the wild because they don't want to get in trouble. And they were like, it almost looked like the light went on. They were like, oh man, we didn't really think about that. What are we going to do? Yeah. So, I mean, and again, it boils down to you're pushing people underground because people are going to keep the animals one way or another. That they'll do whatever they have to do, but we have to work together as a group and be able to show legislators. And, I said it a couple weeks ago on a quick video that I did that, everybody needs to start writing their governor letters, and don't write them a letter saying, oh, I breed snakes and sell them for money. No, write them a letter as to why. Like my story is our family, we do this as a family. We love our animals. That's what you want them to hear. You don't want them to hear, I have a business.
That may be more effective, but I come back to my original argument is it isn't any of your business, but out.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's a libertarian talking, but I don't care what you do, and get out of my business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand for sure. Like I said, it was hard. It was hard having Fish and Wildlife come in to do the inspection, but it was worse when I found out that they were filming it. And if you wanted to, you could write a letter to the state of Florida and request that body cam footage for free. So now somebody has footage of the whole inside of my house. That's scary. Yeah. That's scary to think that. Yeah. What if the wrong person did that?
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, I don't think that's going to be an issue. But what if? There's always that what if factor. So I mean, again, I think we fall into that category of standing on the outskirts, and shows like the Tiger King, and now from my understanding, the Cobra King that's being filmed right now. It's just one more way to kind of throw a dart at us.
Yeah.
So, but Bob, man, this has been great. Is there anything else that you want to kind of touch on?
Well, I'd reiterate, join USARK.
For sure.
To donate to them, and let's gear up for this fight with this mission. And I would say I'm going to have a good year this year, and I got a lot of snakes coming.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Anybody, if you're looking for something, I've got it.
Yeah.
So.
We'll link all of Bob's information in the bottom in the description when this is posted. And, you know, like I said, it was an honor to meet you and get on here. You know, I know you used to do the Daytona shows, and the show's kind of smaller now. We've gone the last couple of years, even though we've been here for 6 years, we've only gone the last couple of years. And I think we spent more time just kind of hanging out and enjoying ourselves with people from other states. And, you know, obviously last year with COVID was a little bit different, but I think they did a very good job at spacing and people being safe. And, you know, we still managed to have a good time. So,
yeah. Well, I kind of miss going there. Actually, it was always very stressful to go there. In the old days, that show was so important to my business that it was very, very stressful to get down there and do the thing and then come home after. I don't miss that part. I do miss the social aspect, yeah. But when I was doing it, I never really enjoyed that because I was always too freaked out.
Yeah, I heard stories. I remember talking to Brian Sharp about Daytona and years ago, you know, when I first started getting into ball pythons, Brian was a huge help to us, you know, in keeping and breeding. And, you know, I asked him stories, you know, I remember him telling me, you know, I had made the comment, you know, well, who really wants, you know, who wants to produce 65 albino retics? I mean, that's crazy. And he said, well, when they're selling for $50,000 a piece and you're taking them to the show and you have 65 of them, you tell me.
Yeah.
7,500 a piece or 10, whatever it was. It was like 65 snakes at $7,000 each, you know?
And I can tell you, no matter how much I produce of everything, it's never enough. So
yeah, 100%.
I never have enough. So, you know, I'll just work as hard as I can, make as many as I can. And
there you go.
And, keep moving forward.
Well, that's awesome, Bob. Again, thanks for coming on, and I'll let you know when this is posted, and we'll make sure that we link all your stuff in the description. And again, guys, thanks for watching, and hit the like button, subscribe, and give us a follow. So thanks a lot, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Paul.